Hi, everybody. Welcome to Promise Day 2021. This is the third of our events and the last one for this particular semester. But as we were actually just discussing, really this is something that needs to go on more often. We need to have more conversations. So we encourage the students who are watching, please contact us if you ever want to get involved, because we want to do more, and we base it on what students ask for and what students need. And I am sorry, I thought I had everything silent, so that's a bad teacher right there. So that being said, today we're going to be talking with Sharice Potts, and I will let Professor Roseman introduce her. But I wanted to first put some thoughts into your mind, which is that even though we separate out domestic violence and sexual assault, they really are interwoven somewhat, as you noticed if you heard Dr. Renee Lamphere yesterday morning. So don't ever think of it as a one concept. Think of them as a blended concept. The other thing is, it is not a male versus female problem. It is a human problem. And that's important, because a lot of times people think it is only men against women or women against men, and they don't realize this happens in all sorts of relationships. And the more we talk about it, the more we can bring that awareness. You need to know what resources. The American Bar Association tells us that approximately 28% of college students have either been part of dating violence somehow, either as victim or perpetrator, or they have encountered it. And that's a huge, huge number. And I think we can do better than that. I think if we work together, we can do better, because we don't want anything to derail you as a human, as a student, as the amazing individual that you are. So here's what I'm asking for you to do. Listen today, learn. If you have questions, put them in the chat. We're going to be keeping an eye on it, and we can make sure that our guest speaker hears them and knows it might just take us a minute to get over to them. There's going to be a poll you're going through. And then remember that we want to hear from you. We want to know after this what you want to do. Our aim for next spring is to start looking at technology and sexual assault and how those two have started to merge in our society. But for now, let's just concentrate on warning signs and learning how to help not only ourselves, but others around us. So Professor Roseman, if you will take over, please.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Professor McElvaney, for introducing this event. And as Professor Mack said, I wanted to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to weigh in on some scenarios this morning. So there is a survey that's been shared, and it'll come up down here below as well. And I will share my screen with the information too. And in that survey, it's a bit of a flag activity. So your goal is to read through each scenario and figure out whether the behaviors that are present represent a green flag, go, proceed, safe, a yellow flag, caution, slow down, or a red flag, a warning sign, stop, don't proceed, in an unhealthy behavior in a relationship. So I'm going to share my screen briefly here real quickly, but the web address is poll, P-O-L-L-E-V, pollev.com/sunnyocean021. And I believe that's going to come up as well. Let me share here real quickly. Let's see. And in just a second, you'll see those instructions come up. All right, and it looks like there are several that are already underway. So several of you are very fast. That's wonderful. You can go via the device that you're on, a mobile device, and you should be able to respond at pollev.com/sunnyocean021. And while that's going on, I wanted to, let's see, it looks like everybody's good there. So I'll stop sharing my screen here. I wanted to go ahead and introduce our speaker. So if you were with us and had the opportunity to attend Promise Day events last spring, you may recognize Sharice Potts of Interact. We are absolutely delighted that we get to work with Sharice. And I just want to give you a little bit of background here. Sharice currently serves as the Community Awareness Coordinator at Interact of Raleigh. She facilitates domestic and sexual violence presentations in the community and coordinates events for staff and for volunteers. She is deeply passionate about Interact's work, and she looks forward to broadening its outreach and awareness efforts. She's a big part of that every day. Sharice received a Bachelor of Arts in Criminology and a Master's of Public Administration from John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Though a New Yorker at heart, she has truly enjoyed living in North Carolina the past 9 years. She is a wife and mother of 3, and just for a fun fact here, in her free time, she enjoys spending time with her family, reading and watching action or romance movies. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Sharice.
Thank you so much, Paige. Claire, thank you so much for the invitation, to time to just to be with y'all and really talk about this, these issues that's happening every day. And Claire mentioned this before in the beginning about, talking about domestic violence. Yes, October is Domestic Violence, Awareness Month. However, this is happening every single day. So we want to just really dive into this subject and really talk about it, get you thinking about it, and getting you think about it every day, because it's happening every single day. So next week or the week after we get into November, just know that someone is still dealing with this situation, and we want to be aware of what is happening. So she gave you my information. I talk about this all the time, but I'm really excited to just really share with you what to look out for, because we always talk about domestic violence after it is already happening. But we want to kind of do some prevention work today in the sense of what to look out for, before you get deep into this, what to look out for. And that's what this activity is all about. Really thinking through what you see in a relationship, because that flag, and that's why we call it red flags, because a lot of times they are things that are happening, but if we don't recognize it, we don't hear the sirens, we don't see the red flashes. So and oftentimes we think that we do. So that's what this activity is really about, getting you to see if you really do know what domestic violence look like, or unhealthy relationships. So I can't wait to see the results, so we can kind of just talk about it a little. And you don't have to, identify who or what you said, but we just kind of want to think through as a collective group, do we really know the signs of domestic violence? Do we really know what this looks like and how it plays out in everyday life? So I'm excited to just share with you all, well, for us to share with each other, because this is a collective conversation. So Paige, just let me know when those results are ready and we can dive in this conversation. And if it's not ready, I forgot to talk about Interact. So
and it looks like we've got about 20 responses. So if you want to talk about Interact real briefly, and we'll give folks maybe like 2 more minutes to share their ideas, and then we can share the overall results.
All right, that is great. So Interact, and I don't want to take for granted that everybody knows, but we are Wake County's sole comprehensive service provider for victims and survivors of domestic and sexual assault. So we are a dual agency, and we are located in Raleigh off of Oberlin Road near the old Cameron Village. It's the village now. So we are a block away from there, and we are still operating at full capacity. The only difference now is that everything is virtual. So if you want to access any of our services, you would call our 24-hour crisis lines. So we have 3 24-hour crisis lines, one in English, one in Spanish, and then we utilize a national language line. So if somebody speaks a language other than English and Spanish, we can have an interpreter. And all of our services, which we do domestic violence protective orders, we have a shelter, we do case management. We have the Solace Center, which is a community-based sexual assault center. So that's an alternative to the emergency room. They can come and get that rape kit done at our facility with a trained forensic nurse. And then we also have support groups. But if you want to utilize any of those services, you would call our crisis lines. And at the end, on my slide, I have all of our numbers and our website. So.
Thank you so much, Sharice. So I'm going to go ahead and share the results of the poll, and y'all will have to forgive me because it'll take me just a second, and you'll let me know whether or not you can actually see those results. So what you'll see is a reminder of the question, and then just a brief look at the overall answers. So.
And as y'all realize, the answers correlate to like that's that stop sign. Green, everything is wonderful. Let's proceed. Let's go further into this relationship. Yellow, let's just slow down and get to know each other just a little bit more, or maybe that might be slow down. Let's see if we need to take some time apart. So whichever, however you want to take it. And then stop is a definite hard stop. No, this is not good. Let's depart ways. So that's really what we are thinking about. And I guess that would have been helpful before you took the survey. But yeah, and still.
Yeah, absolutely. We can just share as we go. I hope a few folks, like you said, Sharice, will be willing to share some of their rationale behind their choices as well.
Yeah, we definitely want to hear some of that. And there's no right and wrong answers. It's really just about what you think, because that's what this is all about, where you are and you're thinking. And then if we need a little more explanation, if we need a little more information, that's what we're all here for, to kind of just expand on our knowledge base.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'll go ahead and share my window. Let's see. And in just a second here, you should see, let's see if I can present. You should see the first question coming up. Oh, let's see. I think I might pull them up one at a time just so we can see. How does that work?
Oh, yeah, that's great. Okay, so we see, on the ball. On the ball, 100% green flag. I love it. Absolutely. When your partner appreciates you and they're passionate about what you're passionate about, or even if they're not, they still encourage you to go after things you love. That is a definite green light. That's somebody that you want to hold on to. Great. I love it. Yeah, champs. All right. Your partner gives you gifts, but demands something in return. Okay, so we have a lot of red flags, and we have a few yellow flags, and we actually have some green flags. So for this one, I would love to hear from my green and my yellow flags. Anybody brave enough to let me know why they chose yellow or green? Any brave takers?
If you want to chime in, you can put your comments in the chat and we can read them over for our guest.
Perfect.
So for somebody who put green or yellow, what's the reason?
Oh, well, she said there was that 10-second delay. Yeah, I would just love to hear, not that, like I said, there's no right and wrong answers. Okay, someone said they misread the question. Okay, well, that's a good explanation. I don't know, Emily, I don't know which one that was for, the green or the yellow, but we have any tickets on the yellow? If not, we can move on. I just was curious to take the temperature of the room. So we can go on, but I would say that is the definite red flag. I'm going to have to agree with my 74%. And I will say the reason why that would be a red flag, that would be a hard stop, because if you look after but, it says demand. It's not a suggestion. It's not something that they ask for. It's a demand. It's a requirement. So it's a quid pro quo, and that's not supposed to be in a relationship. So that's why that would be a hard no. You could go
Thank
to
you,
the
Sharice, for emphasizing the language as well. Whenever I think about how scenarios play out in real life, I know you and I had discussed how expectations work, right? And those kind of demands are a red flag in the
Yeah,
expectation zone.
definitely. There should never be a demand in a relationship. It's always a free will. Has to be.
Oh, right.
Okay. I love it. Y'all are champs. Look at this. 87% says that is a yellow flag. I agree. Definitely. It kind of gives you pause, kind of like, okay, we said we was going to do this one thing and now you're changing up on me. And I love that you didn't get sidetracked by the miss you part, because that's just an excuse. That's just an excuse to say, oh, I only called or text you to tell you that I missed you. But it's still an intrusion and it's still opposite of what we have agreed on. So, not saying that relationships is black and white and there's no room for movement, but it's a consistent thing. It's a consistent interruption. So you really can't enjoy yourself because you're constantly interrupted by that partner. And so to make the excuse to say it's just to tell you I miss you one time, yeah, you miss me, but several times it's intrusive. So I love it. Y'all some champs.
Absolutely. And it's always amazing to me to think about how active it is to constantly set those boundaries,
Right.
and to reset healthy boundaries. And
absolutely, because you want to think about if it happens, on a night where you out, then we might progress to while we at work, while we at class, so everything is a progression. So you could go to the next one. Yeah, a chance.
Absolutely. Let's see. And here's the next one.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, a chance. But I would love to hear from my yellow flags. I would love to hear someone why that would just kind of be a slowdown versus a red flag. And not that you're wrong, but I'm just kind of, I would love to know why would you think that would be a slowdown versus a hard stop?
And maybe folks would be willing to add into the chat as well some specifics around social media use, because I know that that there are a lot of different ways that this could look.
Right. And yeah, so that's a good point, Paige. That's a very good point. It can look different. Generationally, it could be different, and we just don't know and not factoring that portion in. So definitely, I would love that. Paige, you could go to the next one, and if someone still has a comment, you can put it in the chat, and we'll come back and look at it.
Perfect. And here's the next one.
Random part. See, we got it's got a little more yellow flags. Okay. So they stopped by your home or your dorm and you told them it made you uncomfortable. And some people said it was a hard no. Okay. So same thing. I would love to hear some rationales. I'm sorry that it's just, I don't know, the delay or whatever we're not hearing. But Abby, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay. Some people have one account. Okay. But the only thing with that, it said your account. So remember, because we are doing a survey or we're doing scenarios, it's those little words that we had to look out for. And that's when we talk about red flags, it's not going to always be really big. It's not going to be right in your face all the time. There will be some things that are small, but they make a big difference. And the question said your social media accounts, which means that it's not one account, it's separate accounts, but they have control over it. They have your passwords and they have control over it. And we didn't talk about on the other side, is this a mutual thing? Do you have control over their do you have the passwords and stuff to their social media account as well? So, kind of thinking about it from, from the different sides where there can be a lot more in there, but like you said, it said your account. So it doesn't account for those that might have a joint social media account. And okay, Caitlin, is that for this question that's up? You said yellow, but you see that it can be red. Well, for this one, like I said, with the wording, it still can be. Oh, the previous question. Okay. A yellow flag. They said that, they stopped by your job. You told them it's uncomfortable. You told them, and they still doing it. At this portion, just depending on how well, if we're talking about, hey, they did it and they did it twice, whatever. We had then it still can be a yellow flag, but it's definitely a caution to you to really start taking a look at this, because they are still kind of pushing a boundary. So now if this continue, absolutely it's going to go. And these are one of those ones that is yellow, but it can definitely slide into that red flag. It definitely can slide into that red flag. So that one for either one, and that's why I wanted to hear the kind of the rationale behind it too, because you're both are right. You're both right, because this is one scenario that can slide right in from yellow into red. Just depends on how aggressive it gets. Okay.
You mentioned that as well, Sharice. It feels like one of those questions where in people's minds, and I know in my mind when I was looking at the survey, you immediately think about escalation and you think about power.
Right. And this error 404, they hit it right on the nose. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we take into account. Absolutely. You absolutely right, Taylor. And that's why I said it can go from that yellow cautionary straight into red, just depending on how aggressive. Because remember, with all of these, we still take into consideration people's boundaries are different from yours. Also, and how they dealt in other relationships, what they thought was, normal in other relationships. So that's why at that point it's kind of cautionary, slow down and say, hey, listen, I don't know what you did before, but these are my boundaries. This is what is comfortable. And then if that continues to go on, then yes, you're right. We are at a red, Exactly. Surprises are nice, but if you told them, because there's some jobs that there's no such thing as surprises. You can't show up. You can't, people cannot come to your work, just depending on, what you do. Some of my other job, when I used to work for the federal government, my husband could never pop up on me. That was not, for security reasons, it was just not. It would have to be a dire emergency. Somebody's dying, something's happening with to show up. So, thinking through all of those. But I love these type of questions because they can go, you can see where they can start off as caution, slow down to a hard no, stop. This is not it. And that's one of those questions. That's it. It's a huge yellow flag. Like I said, just depending on the type of person. And that's why that caution, there's no green to red. It's that cautionary thing to figure out the type of person that you're dealing with, because is it coming from they just don't know? And this is, and like I said, thinking through what your boundaries are not the same for others. So for them, you can show up at their job and it doesn't bother them, and that's okay with them. But for you, it's not okay. So we have to set those boundaries. So I think that's why it's that time, that caution to kind of slow down when you see things that you don't care for. And then there has to be some sort of communication going on. And after that communication, then we kind of see where that goes,
And I was just, I was wondering if you comment on this for us. Isabella up earlier had mentioned the fact that if you've already explained that makes you uncomfortable. So what can they do to make sure they have said, this is what makes me uncomfortable, or here are my boundaries, without sounding unromantic?
Well, unromantic, I mean, I guess you can use those examples of what we romanticize. If you stop by my job, to give me roses, one time, that's sweet. Yeah, that is. And like I said, taking into consideration the person's type of work and whether or not that's appropriate at all. But let's just say it is. You bring me roses one time, okay, it's really nice and it's a romantic gesture, but I'm still uncomfortable with you coming to my work. But now you having someone, they're coming to your job to bring you candy now, and they coming to your job and then now, no, you just kind of totally, going against what I'm saying. And then that's why I said that can kind of slide into that red, because you don't, understand, that this is just not, so in the beginning, maybe I stopped by a job and thought, oh, it'd be nice for me to take you out to lunch. And you're like, no, I can't really do that. And then you show up to give me flowers. And I'm like, listen, okay, there is no stopping by my job. Now, and don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about specific to numbers, but I'm just doing this for the example. The third time, now we at a hard no, because you just not listening. You're not respecting my boundaries. But like I said, it's important to have that, because someone just said, like, it's a hard red, but you have to give opportunities to voice your boundaries. And all of these red flags and things, these are like things that you should look for when you start dating someone, in a newly relationship. So you're kind of thinking in that instance where this is now an opportunity to voice your boundaries, because maybe prior to, you have not, it hasn't come up. So you have not voiced your boundaries. So now through these, times and scenarios, this is the time to voice your boundaries and talk about, this is, and that's how the, relationships develop. But now when these conversations happen, and it's an understanding that this is the boundary, this is the hard line, and then it crosses, then now we need to do something about it. But I think we definitely have to have some type of communication about what those boundaries are, what is comfortable, why those boundaries are there. And then, if they are crossed, then now we need to make a hard stop. But I definitely believe that it's that yellow in between that red.
And I'll go ahead and bring up the final question here.
But why would someone, if you're uncomfortable, why would you be with someone if you're uncomfortable with? Well, as I said, just going through the rationale of thinking this is a new relationship. This may be a new relationship or a developing relationship. And different people have different things. Maybe their living situation, or just cautionary for myself when I was dating. I didn't allow people that I was just dating to know where I live. That's just not something that I did. And it was, things that went on in my life, and just for my protection, I just didn't do that. We always met in a mutual place. I had to kind of be at a certain point in a relationship before someone comes to my home. And that's why these conversations and what you do and how you deal in a relationship has to be communicated, because everybody is different. For you, it's like, hey, if we say we dating, and then the definition of dating for other people, for one person, it may be one date and we're dating. For other people, we had to have been on, consistently going out together for 6 months, so that's why all of this is about, communicating and deciding on what is comfortable for you, and that's what it's all about. Was that Makita? I'm not sure which question, or what comment that we are discussing, because this one on the screen, I didn't even talk about the social media interrupting.
I think she's on the one with the controlling your Facebook.
There we go. I put that one back up. Sorry, y'all.
Okay.
I can only see the poll, so I'm kind of guessing because it's taken up my whole screen.
Yeah. Well, we definitely going to touch on, and I think because we at 12:30, so let's move on because we spent a lot of time, because we're going to talk about this in the presentation, and when we get to the red flags, it'll have all of this. But thank y'all all for participating in those in that activity. I like to do that a lot, just to kind of think about it in everyday scenarios, kind of how this plays out, you know, because when we look at these and hear these presentations, it sound in theory, but how do they really play out in everyday life?
I truly appreciate that, Sharice, because as long as we've been learning together and been part of these presentations, I recognize that real life is often far more complicated than something that we share in a presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Real relationships are in fact messy. And
yes.
Anything we can do to consider more realistic scenarios is great. And you saw, I mean, on some survey questions, there was no
human touch. Yeah.
Everybody agreed. It was very clear, and other behaviors and other signs are less clear. So thank you for guiding us through that.
Yeah, definitely. Sarah, if you could put them slides up, we will jump right in, and you can advance until we get to keep going. Yeah, you can stop right there. So as y'all can see, we just talked about this relationship spectrum. So, and that's what we're kind of going to be talking about today. So we're talking about the spectrum from healthy to abusive. So you see in that healthy, you're communicating, both parties are respectful, they're trusting. Unhealthy is iffy, you're not trusting, you know, that person is not always, you know, telling the truth. You're having a lot of misunderstandings, or, you know, the communication is kind of broken down somewhere. And then when we get to that abusive side, there is communication, but it's all negative, threatening, controlling. So that's the portion, is that part of the spectrum that we're going to talk about today. And that's the part that we're talking about when we're talking about abusive relationship. Is like really on that total opposite side of what healthy would look like. You could go to the next slide. Domestic violence, we always have to do this, kind of give just a broad definition, or what we consider to be domestic violence. Out of that whole definition, what I want you to really pay attention to is the power and control. That's what the whole thing with domestic violence, it's all about power and control. One person wants to dominate over the other. That's what it's about. Not anger, not somebody's losing control, none of that. Domestic violence is a choice, and the choice that that person is making is that they want to dominate over the other. It's all about power and control. So that's one of the things that I want you to keep in your mind when you think about intimate partner violence, domestic violence, however you want to call it, that is all about power and control. Next slide. Some stats, and Claire had talked about this a little bit more. Just looking at 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men, 20 people per minute, 10 million men and women. And remember, these stats are very conservative. Domestic violence is a very underreported crime. But just on a college campus, 43% of college women experience some form of intimate partner violence. That's a lot. And these are national numbers. This is not just on your campus. This is nationally. So we're talking millions. 1 out of 5 college women report some type of physical, sexual violence. And that's clear, like they are intertwined with sexual violence. And as you'll see in the next slide, sexual violence, sexual abuse is one of the forms that are used, forms of abuse that's used within domestic violence. So they intertwine. And as you see in the LGBTQ community, 40%. It's a lot. So we all know someone, we all talk to someone, go to parties with someone, eat with someone that has experienced some form of abuse. So those are just things that we want you to keep in mind when you're thinking about that. I don't know how many people, I can't see how many people are in here, but if we're looking at 1 in 5 college women, then out of the people that are in this room, there may be, depending on the number, one or two people in here that are in abusive relationships. So it's something that is happening abroad, across the scale, and it doesn't matter what kind of household you come from, with your ethnicity, what you plan on doing in the future, what you're doing now, what's your religious background. It does not matter. It crosses all lines and all barriers. Next slide. And definitely put in, thank you, Sarah, any questions that you might have as I'm going along. And so as you can see from this pyramid, and I love this pyramid, and if you've seen it before, it's great. But the basis of domestic violence, what is right at the base, at the core, the foundation, is isolation. And I always say, you think about isolation, don't think that it's just an overnight, you meet somebody and you not around your family and friends ever again. No, it's very gradual, it's encouraged, and it's like, I just want to spend time with you. I just want to be with you. Your friends don't understand us. We're in a relationship now. You shouldn't be around, single people. Your mom don't like me. Your father don't like me. Your brother, your dog, your cat, somebody. But all of it is so that they can limit outside any type of outside influence. Excuse me. And Sarah, you could keep hitting it. So all of the, yes, thank you. So all of it is to limit your outside involvement. So after you're isolated, you don't have anybody around you because you're spending all your time with this person, then that emotional and psychological abuse begins to ensue. And one of the questions, and that's why I kind of purposely didn't answer, talking about the silent treatment. The silent treatment is something that is used as a means of control. It's not, I need to cool off because we had a disagreement or we had an argument and I need to kind of think things through. No, it's, you did not do what I said. And so I'm going to withdraw my emotions. I'm going to withdraw my affection. I'm not going to talk with you. I'm going to act like I don't know you until you comply. And then you have the gaslighting, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard of gaslighting, but the basis is that you try to get someone not to believe in their own sanity, their own sense of right and wrong. So they're getting all of what they consider right or wrong from that abuser, from that abusive partner. It's like beginning not to trust their own judgment. Now they're getting what they need from that abusive partner. So now you're isolated. Family and friends are not really around you so much. And now you're getting your sense of right and wrong from that abusive partner. Stonewalling, and this is, it drives people, kind of insane. And really what that is someone keeps from discussing anything that is important. They will start a conversation. It's kind of like, you know what, this relationship is not going, never mind. And it kind of like doesn't give that person any type of explanation, doesn't really tell them what's going on. And when they do, they blame everything that is quote unquote wrong in the relationship on that other partner, but they don't give any explanation and no reasoning behind what is happening. They stop any type of responses to their emotions. So you imagine, you kind of want y'all to think this through. If you care about somebody or you're developing something with somebody and someone just kind of stalls and stops, but they don't give no explanation, they claim that it's you and it's something that you're doing, but they're not telling you why, it's really going to bother you. It's really going to, and this is constant. And then you have that baiting and bashing, and that baiting and bashing is more so they kind of, you be around someone enough, what annoys them, what aggravates them. So what they do is they begin to annoy that person or do something they really don't like. And when they lash out, whether that's verbally or, they push them off, whatever they do, then they sit back and they accuse the person of being the abuser. They accuse that person. See, it's not me, it's you. You're the one that's always making a big deal of things. They try to make it push off their behavior onto that other person. And for the sake of time, I'm going to just kind of run through these because I want us to get to these red flags. With the verbal, it's every type of insult, derogatory comment, and that is face to face. That could be on the phone, text, so definitely social media. Any ways that they can put that person down verbally, they do that. The sexual, as we said before, they intertwine with the sexual violence. There's rape, pornography, and forcing partners to do something that they don't want to do. And when you see contraceptives, that's really kind of destroying them or not allowing them to get contraceptives. The physical harm, we know, punching, scratching, beating, pushing, anything that you can think of. You can go to the next slide. And with this financial abuse, unless you're in like you can hit it, a marriage or whatever, some of these might not apply. But in the financial abuse, if this is someone denying access to funds or taking the funds when one partner may be working or both partners working, but they're taking the money from someone else, making them pay bills, and so that they have no access to any type of funds. If they have a house together, car together, whatever, maybe they take all the funds and stop paying the bills for the cars get repossessed. If you do have, let's just say, a house together, maybe they stop paying the mortgage, or they take out a second mortgage without that person's knowledge, max out credit cards. So anything that will ruin their credit or stop them from having any means of leaving because there's no finances, that's what they do. And spiritual abuse, and it just kind of comes down to, if your faith is important to you, they will use it against you. So any type of sacred texts, depending on what your religious beliefs are, they will use those to justify their behavior, to turn it around, to make you feel guilty for not doing what they want you to do. So in any way that they can use that your faith against you, that's what they would do. Okay, you can go to the next slides, and we can talk about this a little later, but they wanted me really to discuss these red flags, and this is what we wanted to get to, because these red flags, this is how you can identify that that abusive behavior before you go further on into this relationship. And these are things that we want to really be able to see. And a lot of times when the red flags is going off, you don't know, because you don't know what to look for. So we want to kind of give you some things to look for. So now you can see that, controlling behavior. And at first, kind of the behavior is, like out of safety, let me walk you there, let me do this for you. And it seems really sweet, really nice, but really what happens after a while, they start controlling everything that you do, down to how you dress. If we're talking about one of the female partners, how you do your hair, if you wear makeup, how you wear your makeup, what kind of makeup that you wear. There's some controlling behaviors, even controlled down to their undergarments, what kind of panties and bra you wear, it controls every aspect of their life. And it's just, at first, the opinions, it seemed like just an opinion. Oh, those jeans look really nice. Oh, I don't really like those jeans. And anybody that, cares about somebody else, you want to look appealing to them. But it begins to now, you cannot wear that. Take that off. And just, to offer some transparency. This happened to me. I was in an abusive relationship when I was in high school. And that was how that happened. It was like when I first met him, oh, those are nice. And, we would be able to pick out clothes together. And it's like, oh, they look nice. But then after a while, it was kind of like, those jeans are too tight. Take those pants off. I don't like that color. Why are you wearing that? And then it goes into that second part, the jealousy. Who are you wearing those pants for? Who are you trying to show up for? Why, when you're walking down the hall, you shaking just a little bit more? Why are you talking to him? Who are you talking to? Like, that's my classmate. We're doing a project together. So you like them? That's who you want to be with? And it becomes so accusatory that, remember, you kind of care about this person. So you're trying to prove to them, like, no, I'm just, this is my boss. This is, this is my cousin. Are you sure that's your cousin? kind of questioning every single thing that you do, everyone that you interact with. There's always some accusation of you flirting with them, or them flirting with you, or even down to your friends. Your friends are now coming in between. They're jealous when you spend time with them. Now they want you to not, be with them, because that person is now causing you to want to be with someone else. So they're trying to hook you up with someone else. What was that picture? Now that social media, why did you like that picture? What do you like about them? Are you DMing them? Everything is about, and that's where you go into what we had on that red flags, where now they want the password and they want to control your social media, because who you talking to? Why are you talking to them? What are you talking about? So that jealousy is outrageous. It's just, and we think that jealousy, oh, just a little bit, is good. Jealousy is not a sign of love. It's a sign of possession. It's not a sign of love, you know. And this jealousy is outrageous, and it begins to, like I said, get to the point that no matter who you're around, there's always some accusation of you either wanting them or trying to get with them, or vice versa. And it can be family members, professors, it can be anyone. So these are some things and that's where that goes into where they stop by the job unannounced, because they want to see what you're doing. Your home, your dorm, if you live in the dorms, then next thing you know, you see this person is, sitting downstairs or walking around the halls, and you're like, what are you doing here? But they popping up because they want to see who you with, what you're doing, who you're talking to. And one of the things that we like to always talk about is keep in mind that a lot of relationships, abusive relationships, they escalate really, really fast. They get involved really, really, really fast, because you think about it, when you first start talking to someone, and you first start being with somebody, everybody's on their best behavior. Everybody is the greatest person, the most understanding, the most, thoughtful, all of those good things. That's what they are in the beginning. But an abuser can't keep it up but so long. So they try really hard to get you to fall in love. And that's when we talk about love bombing. And love bombing those are things like, you're my soulmate. I never met anybody like this. I never trusted anybody the way I trust you. You are just my world. They're constantly telling you how handsome or how beautiful you are. And they just never had anything like that. You are the best thing since air. Not even sliced bread, since air. And that's what we call love bombing. And they do that. And all of that is to enhance that ability for you to fall in love. And they try to will them in really, really, really quickly, because they know that their real intentions is going to come out really soon. And I got to speed up. Unrealistic expectations. They want you to meet every demand, everything in their life they want you to be. If they were abandoned by a parent, they want you to make that up and make them believe that you will never leave them. You have to constantly reassure them that you won't leave them. You have to do anything to help them not feel abandoned. So those unrealistic expectations, it's like kind of like whatever went on prior to you being there, they want you to fill that void. And it's just, it's unrealistic. There's no way that one person can be all to another person. And especially someone that you're just dating. You can't be their all in all. And that's what it will expect, and it doesn't really matter how it affects your life. So you have class, but if they want to see you or be with you because they don't want to feel like you choosing something else over them, they expect you to leave class and kind of be with them. So their expectations are really, just unattainable. We talked about the isolation. So I'm going to skip over that one. Just keep in mind somebody that never takes responsibility for their own problems. Everything is someone else. Everything is the way that they grew up. It's their father, their brother, their cat, their dog, one of your professors. It was somebody at the financial aid office. It was somebody. It was never them. It's never them. It's always someone else. And even when y'all arguing or having a disagreement in some way, form, or fashion, it was something that they did, but they turn it around and make it your fault. If you didn't do this, I wouldn't have said that, And so they never take responsibility. They always blame it others. And it's the same thing for their feelings. The way that they feel sad today. It was because you didn't do so and so, or they feel really upset and they angry and they, went out of control in the meeting. It was because they boss said something. It's always someone else reason why they feel the way that they feel or they did what they did. Everything is someone else. Hypersensitivity. This is someone that cannot take a joke. They get offended by everything. And even if they were the ones that, let's say, sometimes, friends, they pick fun at each other, and say, oh, you play basketball like whatever. I can't think of, a good thing. Oh, your head, big head, or they say something, but this person would get really, really offended, and they would take it out of proportion. Oh, you didn't mean it like that. They was trying to call me this, and they kind of just take it to a whole new level. You can't really have fun with them. They are just really, really sensitive about everything else. And that partner, and I'm just trying to think in terms of thinking, like if y'all in a group, this partner would now have to go and try to kind of soothe them because they have gotten really sensitive. They, feeling some kind of way, and then they want to lash out. And so you will find that partner would kind of have to soothe them and tell them, apologize for someone else and let them know they didn't mean it that way. And so you'll find yourself constantly doing that. That's someone that is definitely hypersensitive. Cruelty to animals and children. And this may be something that might not come out right in front of you. They might not kick the dog right in front of you or the child, but maybe when you leave the room, or you might see it in some way, a video, but some people are bold enough to do it right in front of you, but a lot of times it's kind of in secret. But they are cruel to animals and children, and these days you can kind of see that from the videos that they enjoy. They might enjoy videos of watching, other people being cruel to animals and children. And this one, playful during sex, really is not playful. They really trying to carry out how they feel. And a lot of times abusers don't care about their partner's feelings. They don't care about how they feel about it. They don't care that it hurts as long as they are pleased. So that's definitely something that you want to keep an eye on. If you express that hurts and the reaction is like, come on, because they're not really mindful of how you feel about it. They just want to make sure that they are satisfied. That's definitely a red flag. We talked about the verbal abuse. Rigid sex roles, this kind of can feed into those sexual fantasies. And we see a lot of things that go on within a lot of those roles, and depending on, they real rigid. I'm the man, this is the woman, and this is what the man does and the woman does. But we have found that a lot of those roles differ among people. So just a lot of things behind closed doors that happens. Just kind of think about what you're comfortable with, what you like. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This one is very apparent to a lot of people around them. Like their mood swings are so bad that people think that it's something wrong with them mentally. They're really, really nice 1 second, and then the next minute they're flying off the handle. And for you just kind of don't know which way the wind is going to blow, because you were just sitting there. We were just having a great conversation, and, you laughed the wrong way, or you poked them fun. And then you're like, why would you touch me like that? And just fly off the handle. And you kind of like, did I just miss something? Like what happened? So that Dr. Jekyll, and this is constant. This is not just like a one day thing. This is a constant thing. Threats of violence. You don't do what I say, I'm gonna slap you. You sit like that, I'm gonna kick you. even like, things like you go to sit down and they kick the chair from under you. All of those things are definitely red flags. And this one, and for the sake of time, I'm just gonna kind of, because I think the other ones are, the last two are kind of, they you understand them. But this past battering, this is one of the things I've been highlighting a lot lately. Listen to the stories. Listen to the explanations. A lot of times, abusers give themselves away when they talk about their past. Listen. Listen for the explanation as to why they left their partner on the side of the road and made them walk home at night by themselves. Listen to why they cleaned out their bank account before they left. Listen to why all of these things come out. Why they demanded that they give them their password. And, listen to the stories. Listen to the family and the friends when they tell you. A lot of times family and friends will innuendo or kind of tell you about things. Oh, well, you better not talk too smart, because that last one, when she talked smart, she got it in the mouth. Listen to those things. Don't just take them for a grain of salt, and don't listen to the excuses as to why they did that. There's really no excuse as to why you would push somebody out of a moving car. So listen, because a lot of times those things will save you a lot of trouble if you just listen. Just listen. Don't just listen to the things that you want to hear, the romantic side, but listen to how they interact with their family and their friends, and ask about their past relationships. Ask about those things, because they will begin to reveal things if you're listening with the right ear. So I'm going to end, because those last two, I think they are self-explanatory. Well, any force during an argument is like, we're having a disagreement and you go to walk out the door, and they stand in front of the door. They snatch your keys out of your hand, or they go to walk past you and they give you that really hard bump with their shoulder. They act like they're getting up or went to grab something and they hit you in the process, anything like that, any type of force, and while you're having a disagreement, while the emotions are high, that's a red flag. And definitely, if you start arguing and they start breaking everything in the room and throwing things, too. But one of the biggest things I would say, listen to those past battering, and definitely keep an eye on them controlling what you do, where you go, who you talk to, how you dress, and them wanting you to commit to this relationship really, really quickly. So any questions?
And thank you so much, Sharice. I was just going to try to summarize a few of the questions that I've seen come up. And I wanted to just super appreciate you for just calling our attention to listening and being mindful and talking through some of these behaviors that almost come before the red flags, and can be signs that things that things might escalate. So I really appreciate that. I also wanted to highlight that a couple of people have already just expressed their gratitude and thanks. There's one comment here from Donna Lewis. Thank you for the narrative. And I've never heard this encompassed so thoroughly. I wish I could bottle it and pour it into the minds of my loved ones. So
thank you.
Spread and encourage the education and the dialogue around, these ideas that are hard to put into words sometimes. So thank you for everything you've done to make it clear here. And I also noticed there's a lot of folks with different kind of strands of questions. So there's one strand of question that came up, let's see, around the silent treatment. And I can start reading questions too.
Okay.
Sorry, they're a little ways up give me just a second. We've had a lot of great comments going on throughout. Let's see. So I believe Emily Sutherland started here in regards to the silent treatment. A person can say, I need some time to figure out how they feel. There was a lot of kind of back and forth about what we mean when we say the silent treatment, because that means different things to different people. And there were also...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say with that silent treatment, as I said, this is a means of control. When we haven't, healthy relationships, we have a disagreement. I need a little time to get my head together. That's fine. Usually a couple of hours a day, just kind of depending on, the schedule, whatever, we kind of not talking. But when we're talking about silent treatment from an abuser, and then, so I don't want to say like there's a healthy silent treatment, and then it's not really a silent treatment. It's kind of let me go in my corner and kind of deal with my feelings, and then we could come back, and because emotions are high, and that's just human nature. Emotions is high, so I need time to kind of. It's like I don't really want to talk right now because I need to get me together. I'm not, that's not the silent treatment. When abusers do silent treatment, that is like I said, we were talking every day. Now I don't hear from you for days. Some have even lasted weeks. This is, I get up and I don't know if you're dead or alive because I haven't heard from you. I haven't heard from you. I haven't seen your comments on social media. I haven't seen you on campus, or if I did, you walk the other way like you don't know me. I mean, this is, and when somebody's upset, if somebody's upset with you, we had not a huge argument, not about something of circumstance. It's like I didn't want to go to the movies at this time because I had to do a paper and you wanted to go, and you're like, I'm not talking to you for 5 and 6 days. That's not, who does that? That's not, normal. Or because, I didn't want to have sex and you did, or I say I want to wait, then, and now you don't talk to me at all. And 3 weeks go by, and now you coming back and we still starting up with that conversation. Because that, when we talk about silent treatment, it's a means of control. I'm not going to talk with you, give you any type of attention or affection until I get what I want. So did you hear what I said? 3 weeks went by, and now we're starting this conversation around where we left off. And that was, I wanted to have sex. So because it's about, are you going to do what I say? Because if not, then this is going to continue. So we're not talking about healthy relationships. Somebody just need time to kind of wrap their head around, their feelings, and then we can come back and have a communication. We're talking about until you do what I want you to do, me and you can't talk. And when we do talk, it's going to be about what we left off, and that is where we had that thing, because my whole portion is still about getting you to do what I want. So silent treatment is not, let's not discuss this right now because I don't want to say anything. Silent treatment is, if you don't do what I say, I withhold all of my affection, my time, my thoughts from you until you do what I say. So I hope that kind of gave somebody some clarity.
Yes, absolutely. And I know there have been many streams of questions. We are a little bit past time, so maybe I'll jump down to one of the more recent questions that's been put in the chat here. Debbie Smoke, what do you do when you catch someone doing one of these things, one of these red flag behaviors or lying? Would it be better to call them out or to keep the information to yourself?
Catch someone doing one of these things. One of these red flags, you would definitely discuss it. You said call them out on it. I guess if it's you or a friend, you would definitely, there has to be a discussion around this. This is not something, but what I do want to tell you is that normally, on average, you really don't see one. They all kind of go hand in hand, so you very rarely where you will see someone that's just controlling. They would be controlling, jealous, they would have a few of these things. But to your question, yes, you would have a conversation around this and you would call them out. And because one, that lets them know that you are not okay with their behavior. And it also let them know that you are aware, that you're woke, you're watching, So yes, I definitely would call them out on it, and in your calling out, you kind of expressing your boundaries and what you will, tolerate and not tolerate.
And if you have time, Sharice, I see another question here that a lot of folks are echoing. Let's see. How do we help someone that is being abused in a situation where they don't realize that they're being abused, but it's obvious that they are, maybe from that, from that outsider, from that friend or family member perspective?
One, we would say the best way to start is to kind of do education, because it's not accusatory. When someone is in an abusive relationship, they're used to being accused, they feel some kind of way. And so you saying or pointing out to them all of the bad in their partner is going to just drive them to their partner. So what we're doing now, kind of in some short formal way, and I can send Paige, we have some flyers with these different things on it to say, hey, you know what, in our class, this is what we was talking about today, because it's kind of like casual, like this is about, domestic violence week, and let them read it. That often works. And then also what we also find that really works, just kind of, among friends, just talking about the normal, or the healthy versus the unhealthy. Because sometimes people will have conversations and they assume that this is normal, but then when you start having conversations with your friend and it's like, he told me to take off these jeans, and I told him no, like, hold on. I used to always say my father's name is Raymond. My father's name is Raymond. Hold on. And that is not your name. I wear what I want to wear. And and when you're talking with someone, a lot of times people agree, but in the back of their mind, they're like, wait, oh, they do that too. So that's not right. So finding ways to kind of give the information without necessarily giving, the information or putting them on Front Street. Because a lot of times people, they will begin to go back. But if they do confide in you, then that's the opportunity to say to them, you know what, you don't deserve this. This is not right. And there is hope, that, you can go to, I guess y'all women's center. Do y'all have a women's center?
We have a wellness center.
Wellness center,
that's
okay.
great. And we just had like a brief panel with our police, our wellness, and our Title IX, just letting students know all the ways in which they can reach out directly, or they can go to someone to reach out for them and make a referral on their behalf. And, just like you were saying, being mindful and listening and watching out for each other.
Yeah. And Sarah, you could advance. I have the numbers for Interact up there, and those numbers, and I'm sorry we didn't get to the signs, but those numbers, our crisis lines are anonymous. So our crisis lines are not only for the victims, but I always say, even to that question, friends that kind of know that someone is in an abusive relationship and you want to start a conversation, but you're not really sure about those conversation starters, you can call our crisis lines and our crisis counselors to kind of help walk you through some good conversation starters. But I find a lot of times when just sharing information that and letting them know that this is not the normal or the healthy relationship, to kind of give them that type of education, help opens doors. Because when you go directly to them and say, hey, this is not right, you need to leave them, it doesn't end well. It usually pushes them to the abuser, because remember, the abuser is telling them that people are jealous of their relationship, they want to break them up, they're telling them all those things. And so if you come at them in a very abrupt way and telling them that they have to leave them, a lot of times they will stay and retreat and continue to isolate themselves with that person. So education is definitely the best way. But when they do open up that door and begin to confide in you, then that's the time to let them know that you will be with them, that you care about them, and it's not right, and there is help out there.
And if I can just echo on that, because I went through this when I was in college at 18 and 19. And when people were telling me to get out, I immediately had the reaction of, I love him. And if you love someone, you love them through good and bad, and you stay no matter what. So if you are confused, because Professor Roseman had mentioned the resources from yesterday, if you don't know, or you don't know for your friend, just go talk to the police, talk to the wellness counselor. They're there, they're free. And you're not making an accusation. You're not sending police to their house. You're just saying, here's why I'm concerned, and let them take over, because this is where people like Sharice interact. They are skilled at this. You don't have to be, you don't have to put yourself in front of a bullet. You don't have to do anything horrible. Say, I'm concerned, and as a decent human, I just want some help. And so use those phone numbers, ask questions. It's okay. Because if you go directly to that person and say, this is what's happening, I promise you they'll fight back. Because that is exactly what I did. And instead, go say, I need some help, or I need to help them get help. And it's better to go a little bit that way and let people who are experienced with it take over. Just my 2 cents on that.
Well, Claire, I'm going to agree with you and disagree with you on one end. I'm going to agree with you with definitely go to the wellness center and ask for advice or whatever. But I wouldn't recommend to go to law enforcement to go to them, only because I'm not sure if all of the protocols and stuff like that on campus. But what we, for our clients and
I mean Wake Tech Police, because they're skilled at referring you over to services. As a matter of fact, they do send people to interact, etc. So they do not necessarily have to initiate a report. They can just give you guidance on here are where resources are, and they never write anything up if they
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I would just because in our line of work, we stay away from telling people to go to law enforcement, only because that's why I said outside of campus, it could be really dangerous.
Yeah, I do mean specific. Sorry, right. I do mean specifically.
Yeah, that's
Wake Tech
right.
Police, because they're skilled at they're actually trained in working with domestic abuse on campus. Okay, so I do mean specifically our police kids. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's good to definitely to clarify. Yeah.
And I think too, something just to bring it back around from several of the events, if we've got folks on who are able to attend, something that someone said yesterday is that there's no wrong door. And in a way, there's certainly better doors. But if you, for example, have those feelings, that something is probably not right, speaking to someone on campus who can help direct you to resources is just a powerful first step. And hopefully we'll be able to get to the right support, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's, just a really powerful message as we all look out for each other in our close relationships, in families and on campus and beyond.
Yep. And I'm going to leave on, I know we're so over time on this last note, but just know that when we talk about these subjects and these red flags, we talk about them because violence only increases. It doesn't decrease. So if you're seeing 1, 2, these red flags, just know that the abuse is going to increase. It's never going to just decrease. It's not going to we are kind of like here at yellow, almost red, and then we're going to go down to green. That's not going to happen. And if it does, it's a facade. It's the honeymoon, and it's going to build back up, and it's going to hit that red. So just know that it's always going to get worse.
Thank you so much, Sharice. And I really appreciate you spending a few extra minutes with us. I know we did technically go over our 1 o'clock time, but I just want to say a big thank you to Sharice in particular for making this event possible and for working with us in our community in all of your different roles, including as an educator and here in this forum, in this space. And I also want to thank everyone who was on the call and who was able to join us and added in their comments and just were willing to share and be part of this discussion and dialogue. I think that we all, this is a great space where we can all grow together. So there are lots of thank yous in the chat for you, Sharice. So
thank y'all for listening.
Hopefully you get a chance to check that out. But as we close out our broadcast today, again, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who made this possible, and especially to Sharice. And we'll hope to provide more events in the future as well.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.